So let me invite Matthias to come and take over this session. So thank you very much. I wish those, I understand people are taking to be at the back because that's where the fun is. This is a museum, guys. Come on. This is a museum. So okay, so before Matthias, I think there's something small that we didn't do at the beginning. The minister did it, but maybe I should also do it now to recognize everybody who has been a part of this process. It's only Nature Uganda, but we have had other groups as well, including the session chairs and the presenters and all those who are involved in the organization of the World Wildlife Day. So we all appreciate your participation. But in particular, we have got those people at the top who are not only participating, but also put in financial support to organize this event. There are definitely quite a number of other logos that are not here, and for those that are missing, we apologize. But allow me to recognize the team from Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. They are our hosts, so I don't know whether I should introduce them, but they are our lead team. Thank you very much. And then we have got a team from WWF, and they're seated there over the other side. So thank you very much for your financial support. And also a team from Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute, and represented by the ED. So thank you very much for your support. We promise that at the next conservation conference, we shall try to be better than this in terms of rooms, unless the museum has improved. Judging from the numbers that you have got, we shall probably find a different venue. But don't worry, that's next time. Matthias, please.
Thank you, my ED, Achilles, for inviting me to host this session. I'm Dr. Matthias Vihangana. All protocol observed, first of all. I'm Dr. Matthias Vihangana, and I'm the research associate at Nature Uganda. My role is associate in research, a specialist on amphibians and reptiles. And this innovation story is very interesting. And for your information, before you leave this hall, I invite you into the world of herpetology and also to practice digital innovation. Whoever I see, I invite him or her to go to your phone and Play Store, upload GPS map camera so that whatever you see out there in the world, plant or animal and don't know it, take a photo. It will give us the GPS, the location, the georeference. Send that photo to Nature Uganda. We're trying to build something. And for me as a herpetologist, the founder, JRS, asked me that we should build at least 50,000 records of herps of Uganda and train at least 10 MSc students so that I'm not an endangered species. So hopefully in 3 years, we shall have a diverse number of students. Most of them right now are doing their MSc field work. And we're also recruiting citizens, local people, to use their phone, use GPS map camera, take a photo and send it to us for me to identify, and also train you to be herpetologists, identify amphibians and reptiles, and put them on the map. For your information, OR and the ministry, you cannot have an IUCN red listed species unless you know the species itself. In other words, I'm a taxonomist specializing on amphibians and reptiles. It's us who give that animal the status. If I don't give it a status, ask my colleagues to give it a status, look at the distribution and the numbers in the wild, it will not be known. We shall say it's a data deficient species. If it's only seen once, recorded in a few places, that's when it attains the status like critical endangered, threatened, near threatened, or vulnerable, or least concern. The data we collect is the one which gives us a status, and then we share that data with our managers, and then you hear that the protected area is strong because of the species X, Y, and Z. That's my role at the lower level on amphibians and reptiles. So that's a bit about me. Chairing this session, as Achilles indicated, two of our colleagues haven't come in. If they come later, we shall introduce them to you. But that's the people who didn't turn up is Dr. Margaret Drisilu and Dr. Patrick Chio. They had very interesting topics to present. We are missing them. But this afternoon, as the two sessions are merged together, we're going to have 4 presentations, 15 minutes each, on different topics. The first topic will be from Dr. Tubi. He's doing his PhD, Robert Baruku, the ED from that training institute in Lake Katwe, and he's going to look at the role of academic institutions in wildlife conservation research using technology. Dr. Tubi, you are welcome to the podium.
Yes, Dr. Matthias, I'll take the honor. Dr. Matthias was my lecturer, and I'm happy again to meet in one room. Thank you so much. He taught us the hepatiles, and here I am. My name is Robert Baluku. I'm here to look at the role of academic institutions in wildlife conservation, looking at a zoom into the current contributions of Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute. Next slide. The focus of my presentation will be looking at the background to conservation problems, which many of you are aware of. Then I'll look at an overview about UWRTI, the institution I'm heading. Then I will look at the training contribution of UWRTI, the research and community engagement contribution of UWRTI, and then the key lessons and recommendations for wildlife conservation. When you look at the anthropogenic threats to the wildlife in Uganda, of course, these are the few points that I've highlighted. One, to do with oil exploration and production, and sustainable land and water utilization, and sustainable energy resources and utilization, commercial agriculture, and then the infrastructure development and urbanization. In the oil sector industry, certainly Uganda had to make an extra mile to see that most of the problems that would emerge mitigated within the infancy stage. But of course, that was not a panacea to the problem. Of course, the problems would still emerge. When the oil exploration and production is being done, of course, when you look at the seismic activities taking place within that area, that one alone affects wildlife. And you'll find that the habitats are altered. Of course, oil and gas comes with the development projects, construction of the roads. You have heard of the oil road. You have heard of the oil road going to Hoima. Of course, that road itself, when it was constructed, a number of wildlife had to be disturbed. And it was on record that during that time, the elephants would not be easily sighted because they were fearing exactly what was taking place. And when I go back home, where the institute is, we are currently constructing a center of excellence within the protected area. We were given some land. So what I have observed is that animals will tend to avoid where construction works is taking place. And if possibly that is one of their migratory routes, maybe that's one of their watering points, or that's one of where they move when they are going to water, certainly you impinge on their what? On their welfare. Habitat manipulation. Habitat animals, of course the vegetation structure will change. So the phenotypic patterns of these plants will also change, affecting the wildlife. Then we have had the sustainable land and water utilization. Of course, this is resulting from us, the people. How are we using the land productively? And specifically for the communities living in the neighborhood of the protected areas. One, you have seen encroachment taking place. When you look at the size of Lake Mburo National Park, and if you go to what it was before, you really get to know what it means by people encroaching on what? On protected areas. So when we encroach on the protected areas, and that's because, of course, because of what we are doing, the minister, you heard him mentioning that if you move to the streets of Kampala, you will see many women pregnant. But when you go to the streets of Tocho, you will find many people not what? Not pregnant. So we are investing in having many children. And I know even the youth who are here, you're already planning to have children. And you find someone who is having 2 wives, 3 wives, and so on. Even those who are not known, you know what you do. So that one alone affects the protected areas. Then there are sustainable energy resources utilization. If you are from a village like me, we still use the 3 stones as the energy source for as the energy cooking stoves, the 3 stones. How much firewood are we burning? How much trees have we fallen? So you find that through such a kind of unsustainable means, then we are affecting the survival of wildlife resources in Uganda. Because when you go and cut a tree, there is charcoal burning taking place. Even in town here, people still use firewood for cooking. You say you are staying in the town, but I know many of you use what? Firewood. If you're not using firewood, you are using what? Charcoal. So if you look at how many lorries are being ferried from the northern region, from the western region, coming here, you can now get to know what it means by really this kind of unsustainable energy resources utilization. Commercial agriculture. Recently, you know what happened in Hoima? Hey, people are felling down trees to plant what? Sugar canes. If you are there by 2000, was it 2003? Maybe Dr. Matthias can remind me what happened to them when there was that issue of the Mavira, giving it away to what? You know what happened. And Dr. Kasoma can still recall. Yes, can still recall. So, but that's what is happening. Just you destroy the forest to plant what? To plant sugar canes. You destroy a forest to plant tea. And if you go to Bwindi Military National Park, before it was revived, a lot was taking place. But I think with all the good laws in place, this might have stopped. Then infrastructure development. You have seen many wetlands being converted. A wetland you see is someone dumping soil. So how much life have you destroyed when you are dumping the soil? So these creatures, when their unsustainable activities taking place, we affect their what? Their living by destroying their habitats. For example, there is one already bird which is endangered, the Frangolin dahenus, very endangered. When I grew up, I used to see this bird, but now you can hardly see it. You can hardly see it because of unsustainable activities resulting from human activities. In the Rwenzori Mountains, if you visited there, you will still find that many of these animals actually, people dig up to the edge of the what? Of the park. So the activities taking place alone, you can never know whether poaching is not taking place. If you dig up to the edge of the protected area. People have learned to eat monkeys and so on. If it is not happening elsewhere, in the Rwenzori region it is happening. People eat monkeys. Yes. Yeah. So the next slide. We have, of course, government has put up institutional conservation efforts to make sure that wildlife in Uganda is what? Is protected. We have ministries, departments, and agencies. And it is now Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife, and Antiquities that is hosting us. Wildlife Research and Training Institute is here. WWF is here from the civil society side. The private sector companies are here. Then other academic institutions. Of recent, UWEC has come up with a curriculum that can be used in the primary schools and secondary schools to see that right away from the beginning, the young people can be nurtured in protecting what? In protecting wildlife. But how the curriculum is being implemented is still questionable. So that the onus is on us, the leaders, to whether we accept to exterminate the wildlife, or we reduce actions, our actions, bad actions towards these animals. So what is our focus what is the focus of this presentation? The focus of this presentation is on the efforts of Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute as an academic institution. In a nutshell, UWRTI is established by the Act of 2016. And our role is to conduct research, provide consultancy services, provide training, and establish collaborations. So the private sector people who are here, the private sector players who are here, I call on you to come and partner with us to see that we move the vision of UWRTI forward. So a number of programs have been put in place, and the governance structure is also in place to see that the institution becomes a center of excellence in conducting research, providing consultancy services, and then providing the training that's required for these young people to be able to manage our resources in the future. For us, our time is gone. Our time is gone. We are already talking of, some of us are nearing retirement, but it is you, the young people, to come and take over. Next. So what is our contribution in the area of wildlife conservation training? We train. We have two main programs that we are running. One is wildlife and natural resources management, and then wildlife tourism management, both at certificate level and diploma level. And the last 5 years, over 450 people, graduates, have passed through this institution. And they are with UWA, they are with the UWEC, they are with the local government, they are with the private sector. So, please, you are called upon. If you still have people at home, bring them, we shall churn them through the same system so that they become managers in the fields I've mentioned. The next slide. What are we doing in terms of research? Of course, there's a lot that has been done in the area of research, but it is not enough to be able to conserve our wildlife resources. We are the Pearl of Africa, isn't it? When you go outside there, don't you say you are the Pearl of Africa? Even when you are here, you boast you are the Pearl of Africa. But we have not done a lot in terms of research, in terms of wildlife research, so that we can be able to preserve the iconic species that we have. Currently, as UWRTI, we are looking at invasive species management. We are looking at community-based conservation. Those are the focus of research areas in the last 3 years. So you can see, we have been there, we were given a law in 2016. To date, we are only focusing on 2 areas. So where are these other areas? There is a lot that we need to do, and we cannot do it alone unless we partner with you people to see that we move research to another level. The next slide. So what have we done in terms of invasive species management? We are looking at a notorious plant called the Kalimanjojo. This is Dicrostaceous cinerea. Dicrostaceous cinerea in Queen Elizabeth National Park has all covered the habitat where the animals are supposed to feed from. And as a result, because it is unpalatable, what happens is that animals now will move outside the protected areas and interact with the local people. And when they interact with the local people, yes, I've been given a red flag. When they interact with the local people, what happens is that it fuels conflicts. You have heard of human-wildlife conflicts. And the elephant is the number one. The baboons and so on. So we are working on that, looking at the ecological assessment. So we have conducted experiments on how to see that we can eradicate the plant. Of course, one that we are working hand in hand with UWA. UWA has done the mechanical removal, but of course the mechanical removal is not enough. We are exploring other methods that can be used to do what? To eradicate the plant, so that animals can be able to have a feeding ground. Their habitat can come to normal the way it used to be before. So we have also done research on cost-benefit analysis of charcoal briquette making. So as we harvest, as we fell down the Kalimanjojo, we are trying to make an innovation. Instead of again burning the fallen trees, what we do, we have already installed a charcoal briquette making machine to make sure that we can use this one to produce the charcoal briquettes. And the charcoal briquettes, of course, this is one way that we can save the environment. The same we have done to the Lantana Camara, looking at the ecological assessment, and then the social, cultural, and economical attributes. What do people attach to the Lantana Camara? You have seen when you move in the villages, you find them, people have planted them as either facing material around their land or their flowers, little knowing that is a problem. And by the end of the day, the birds will come and gather the seeds and spread it everywhere, and it becomes a problem. With the community-based conservation research, here we are looking at the ENAD. ENAD is environmental education. Negotiated access, alternate sources, and decentralized co-management. Here we are trying to look at the integrated approach to community conservation in addressing the current failures of community-based interventions. I have one. Maybe you'll add this. I'm soon finishing. And of course, when communities are told from day one that this is yours, they can be able to do what? To conserve it. People, you see this animal, the Ken rat, the musu. We need a pilot study on this musu, trying to see whether people can accept it as an alternative source of protein. And when we made that survey, In the Rwenzori, it is acceptable, especially from where I come from, because we are neighboring the Congo, and that one can provide the market. When we move to the to the northern region, entirely 90%, they accepted that this one can be used as a delicacy. So what does that mean? Yes, even in Teso region. Yes. So what does that mean? People, the poachers, just go to the park to hunt this animal. And in the process of hunting, they are apprehended, taken to jail for 3 years, 4 years when they are. So if we can domesticate this musu, it can help us to solve a lot. So that people don't now go to the national park, we can prepare the parent stock and give to the communities. And also, we want to earmark the prisons where these people are, so that the first people who should be trained to look after the musu should be within the prison, so that when they go out, they are given their parent stock to go and look after this parent stock. They can be able to earn income, first of all. They can be pressure on the national park, will also be controlled. The livelihood of the people will also change. The next, I think, which is the last slide, if you can allow me, Dr. Matthias, my friend. Yes, is the Eco Homestays, which is a social innovation. Eco Homestays. And the Eco Homestays, they have been promoted in the Rwenzori region. And with the Eco Homestay here, a community member will reserve one room where he stays, one room for a visitor. The tourist. They are those who love to stay with the communities. So we are thinking that if we can promote this, then the communities, the local people, first of all, they will earn income. Two, the communities will be in a position to conserve biodiversity. They will be earning money, and this one will enhance their socio-cultural values, because they will attach themselves to the what? To the wildlife. But also, in a nutshell, looking at the sustainable development, that in the long run, this project will do what? Will bring. With that, thank you so much for listening. If there are any questions, I will be able to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baluku, for a nice presentation on your institute and the training they do, and the last part where you want to involve the local communities to gain something from a rat and a camel rat, and yeah. I'm aware that's one of the delicacies in Rwenzori and Semuliki, and also allowing people to have eco homes so that the tourists also benefit, sleep like locals. Most people would love to enjoy a local setting. That's local tourism. That's a great move you're doing. Let's give a big clap to Mr. Baluku once again. The next presentation is on local-based monitoring, how citizen science contributes to wildlife generation through modern mobile application, by a Nature Uganda Director of Conservation and Partnerships, Mr. Jimmy Muhozi Muhebwa.
Thank you, Dr. Matthias. My age mate. Yes, we both have gullies and rivers around here, so he's my age mate. And thank you everybody for being around and to listen to this presentation. And before I started, I didn't know that I had become an old man until sometimes whenever I would be around, people would say, Mzee, and then I would look around where and there was none. People were making fun of me. But then of recent, I stay in Chengera and work here in Nabu. You see, it's a long drive. So whenever and it's related to what I'm saying, don't think I'm offside. Whenever I'm driving home and I've not rolled up my window, I see young boys come with the roots. And these roots, they look a little bit white. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. Some of you may have used them, I don't know. So, they don't go to cars of the young boys. They are looking for one. And they seem to think that I'm a victim. So I'm same thing. Thank you very much. Oh, I've gone off. Mzee, can you have this one? Mzee. But wait, I've not subscribed to it. I don't know what it does. But you see, that one is already citizen science. How did people come to know that it is useful? It's because probably they had done their own local research on it. They came to know that it works, and they do it, they use it, and it has worked for some. I think at some time it is also going to work for me. I'm not sure. If you've not used it, please don't use it. But if you find it interesting, I don't mind. You can go and use it. So that's when I came to know that I'm already an old man. Now these people who say Mzee, they know that I'm in that age. Matthias, very soon you will get a search. I think I better use this one now. Okay. So my presentation is about locally based monitoring and how citizen science contributes to wildlife data generation through mobile applications. What is wildlife? All that I put here is wildlife. We exclusive. Yeah, I just chose a few representatives, but there are many. As long as they are animals, they are plants, these things that are living things, but excluding we who are humans, they are wildlife. And I want to explain a few terms, and then I go into it. What is data generation? This is creation of new data or information. And how do we get this information? We get it, oh, please, the second slide. I thought I was using mine. Second slide. How do we get this generation? How do we get this information? We get it through surveys. We get it through experiments. We get it through simulation, but at Nature Uganda, we've not yet used the simulation method. At least we are using the surveys. We are using the experimentation method, and then we get our data. And this data that we get, it is used in compiling information, understanding the situations, and eventually it is used in decision making. The third slide, please. Now about citizen science, what is it? As I told you, these guys that I always meet on the way, who think I should be their client, they are non-scientists, or whoever gave them the roots or such is a non-scientist or was a non-scientist. But these non-scientists are community members. But for us, those that we use, of course, we give them some guidance to make sure that what they are doing is in the line of science. So they participate in the process of gathering information, but they have to follow laid down scientific protocols. So let's justify the use of citizen science. This is local knowledge. If you can go to the next slide. It's local knowledge from local communities. They don't qualify to be experts, definitely in academic terms, or any of those dimensions, but they are very knowledgeable about the natural resources. They have lived with natural resources from time so long back. They are still living with it, so they know all about it. The second thing is about inclusivity. This takes into consideration that the local community members, and when I talk about this, both males and females, They have an important role to play if this world is going to be today here, tomorrow here, and the following day here. So for the sustainability of the natural resources. The third one is for the availability of nature-friendly apps. These days when you are going, for us who go to the field a lot, you find just herds boys. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4 cows at home. My herds boys have smartphones, and sometimes, what do they use them for? Yes, but they also have the uses of the, minus WhatsApp. They know how to use these smartphones. And for us, we must make use of these herds boys to make sure that they can also help us get information. And these smartphones have this new technology. The social media aspect in the phones is also supporting work in citizen science. The other slide, please. So now I'm getting into areas where Nature Uganda is employing citizen science. Nature Uganda stands for 3 main, okay, you are already there, 3 main items of the mission. One, it is to promote the understanding. The second, those are not here. 2, to promote the, Nature Uganda staff should be here to say that, appreciation. And the third thing, to promote the conservation of nature. And what is this nature? Our logo is the bird, actually at the other corner. Bird population monitoring. We use a lot of citizen science. African waterfowl counts. These ones we can talk about them later. Citizens can narrate the accounts of migrating birds. They will tell you all the stories about birds on near wetlands or near water. In raptor monitoring, we have not gone deeply into using it, but at least when you go to abattoirs, for example, where they slaughter cows in the, around Karerwe, people will tell you a lot of science about eagles, a lot of about marabou because they have been with these birds for long. And we always do assessments in biodiversity, and this one is conducted by specialists who employ local scientists to help them gather this information. What are mobile applications? A mobile, now another slide, please. It's a software. But this software must be uploaded onto a certain mobile equipment. And in most cases, this one is the mobile phone. But other items or other gadgets like tablets can be used. As we saw in the previous presentations, the drones can be used, although they carry cameras. Even cameras themselves are mobile applications. So they include lifestyle and entertainment apps. If you know WhatsApp, Facebook, videos, TikTok, you are very used, especially the young blood that I see here. You are used to those. Productivity apps, like those ones that we use, the emails, the tracking devices, and so on. Then eventually the gaming apps, if you know the young boys and young girls like gaming a lot, so they also use these apps. Now about, you can go to the second slide, to the another slide, please. Data collection tools and methods. We use observation a lot, and I think for every scientist that went through a certain training institution, observation is item number 1 that you use. Then we have the data collectors. And in our case, I will mention in the next slide, like this guy on the right-hand side, people who know, and these are the citizens, the local communities who can collect information for us. We also use photography and videos. We use interviews. We use surveys and questionnaires. We use focus group discussions, like you can see in the bottom right-hand corner. All those are ways and tools as how we can generate our information. Now I go into the specifics. There are about 3, and then I finish. 1, we use what we call ArcGIS, Survey 123. This one is an app. Most of you may have used it. It's downloaded onto a phone. If you go to your App Store, Google Store, you know where to get them from. I should be one of the autocrats who were born before computers, but I tried to upgrade myself to knowing some of these. There is GIS, or Survey 123. We use it in bird monitoring, especially in gray-crowned crane monitoring. Many of you know me as somebody who started cranes. Definitely I did. So I've been using this GIS Survey 123 for generating or capturing information. But then, now we also empower the local communities. Because as long as it is on the phone, actually I took this one as a snapshot, you call it a screenshot from my phone. Then you get the communities to know what it is. Then you take them to the next stage, which is the right-hand corner picture. Then you take them through, I'm sorry, this one is not very legible, ink. In just 3 hours, the communities will be able to tap in information from wherever they are, Kabare, Bushenyi, where, and then they send you the information. It is made in such a way that when they get to the end, there is a button, something that tells you to click, and when you click it, it sends whatever you have collected directly to the data owner, and Nature Uganda is the data owner, and then we get that information. So they use it. This is what I was explaining. Second slide, of course, from that one, I'm a little bit ahead of you. What I was explaining and how the communities are using it. The slide is mover, okay, and how they are using it. So what I just talked about is explained here, that eventually, sorry, the previous one is what I was finishing on. Previous one, that it is relayed directly to the data owner, but you need to be having internet. And internet is now almost everywhere, as long as you have a smartphone. That, next slide. We also use the drones at Nature Uganda, though this one is still a borrowed technology. In the field, we go with somebody who has a drone. The last time we tried to get a drone, we got problems with the army. There is when actually we also attached some tracker onto a crane. We did it in Rwanda when it flew to Uganda. It was arrested in Mbarara. It was taken to the barracks. Then when we went there and intervened together with the Achiris, the crane was eventually released from prison, but the tracker was arrested and it is still in prison. It's about 4 years, I think, now, still in prison. If we had not intervened, the crane would still be in prison. So we still use it as borrowed technology because we found it very hard to own it. Otherwise, if we get somebody that has it, then we use the technology. Now, final about locally based monitoring. Locally based monitoring, you go to the next, yes, that's the one. It's a tool innovatively used by us, by our own data collection teams. The local communities you see on the right hand, they are local communities to collect data. This one is not yet put on mobile equipment, but if we wanted, we would do it, because they still use forms on which they write. But these are members of the local community who know the areas, the forest, the wetland, wherever, and then they collect information for you. While currently the forms are still in hard copy form, they can be loaded onto the mobile thing. So let's go to the second last. No. Why LBM, if you get to that? Why LBM? Go up a little bit. Sorry, I think you will get it. Okay. Why LBM? They provide data and knowledge about biodiversity, ecosystem services, and natural resources. LBM members monitor trends over time, and monitoring is the most effective when the target of the monitoring is kept small. So now you can go to Nature Uganda's locally based monitoring. Yes, that one exactly. So these are the forms that these communities are using. They fill in the forms, they keep the forms because they have the parameters that they are monitoring, and eventually they give us the forms. And what is mostly commonly monitored are fauna like monkeys, chimps, then birds like turacles, francolins, and hornbills. Then on flora, they monitor prunus. I don't know why prunus. They also monitor Fantumia. They monitor Macamia. They can also water quality and quantity in some way or the other. They also monitor illegal activities like poaching, like charcoal burning. The other slide, where we also have locally based monitoring. This is about the joint forest patrols. We also have community members, dressed in the same, trained in the same way. We call them the patrol men. They also help us in capturing information about the forest. So they are always in the forest, or they have days when they go to the forest, and they keep it monitored. And with them, illegal activities have gone down, and in some areas, we don't see them, especially in Kasioa-Kitomi, in the southwest, Echuya, in Rwanda, Mabera, here, Nakindiba, also, which is close here. We have our forest, our joint forest monitoring teams. So let's look at the advantages, and then I end there. Go to the next one. Also, that was. The advantages were talked by Mr. Mwanda in the morning, but I need to add my voice to his. It is that these systems eliminate the use of paper surveys. Rather than carry a whole big sack of paper that you've been writing ABC, these systems help you eliminate that. So we run a paperless environment. At Nature Uganda, when you go there, you'll find very few paper strewn around because we don't need it. Two, it has that quick action. So we get this data immediately. It is sent to us. Rather than wait for somebody to come on a bus, we get it immediately. Three, elimination of errors. We don't get errors because these paper-based where you have to rub, cross out, and so on, those are not there. Some errors are also increased during the transcription, but we don't have that one. Three is easy storage. You know, in your computer, you can store as much as you can. On your mobile phone, I don't know how many items you have stored in it. It has never told you that it's about to burst. No, it accommodates them comfortably. So that one is also an advantage. And also it has this push notification that even when your phone is not being used, you can keep getting the information that something has come up. You know the push notes for you who are more computer knowledgeable than I am. The disadvantages now is that they always need upgrading to newer versions. And whenever you go to a newer version, either you need a new phone, you need a new device, and you need to train people how to use it. These communities, of course, need to be trained on how to use them. And three is that there is limited functionality of these gadgets. They are designed to provide only one specific function and service at a go. And of course, there are security concerns. They can also, when you are using these ones, they can also go into other things stored on your computer. Can you take us to the last? Thank you very much for listening to me. Please support everyone to be part of data collection. Don't leave anyone, anything unused. Thank you very much for listening. I've used your time very well, I think.
Thank you, Jimmy, for the citizen science. Jimmy was a teacher, so that's why he usually wants to walk far away from the microphone.
I was a tutor.
A tutor?
Yes.
Yeah, once a tutor or is a teacher. Thank you, Jimmy. Once again, let's clap hands for Jimmy's good presentation and allowing us to be citizen scientists to collect data. So don't leave here and say I'm a manager. Wherever you are, try to collect data. And for the HAPS world, I have told you GPS map, send the photo to Nature Uganda. I can also ask my manager for membership to recruit all of you who are not yet members of Nature Uganda into the Nature Uganda membership, the Nature Uganda family. We got the last but one presentation from our senior scientist, Mr. Michael Chubule, program manager, data sharing and collaboration platforms, the best practices in the conservation networks. Michael.
I have to adjust this because of my height. Okay. All protocol observed. Good evening, members. My name is Michael Chibule. I work with Nature Uganda. Oh, okay. As a program manager. Specifically, I'm in charge of research. Nature Uganda does a lot of research on birds, bird monitoring. In bird monitoring, we have different schemes, including water bird monitoring, land bird monitoring. We do monitor birds of prey. We do monitor nocturnal species, nightjars and owls. We do various research activities, some of which Jimmy has mentioned. Talk of LOBM, he has explained that very well. But this afternoon, I would like to share with you information on data sharing and collaboration platforms, best practices in conservation network. Starting with the definition. What does data sharing in conservation mean? In simple terms, it means making conservation data, biological data, accessible to all stakeholders, including conservation organizations, government departments, and the general public. So it refers to making biological information accessible to all stakeholders. Another term is collaboration, still in simple terms. Collaboration. It is a cooperative effort and partnership among various organizations which are involved in conservation activities. We usually hear people say organization A does not want to share data. But what does that data sharing involves? Does it only involve sharing raw data? It means it involves more than that sharing raw data. It involves sharing raw data, yes. But also sharing analyzed data is data sharing, not so? It involves sharing reports. Several organizations write reports. So when those reports are shared, that is part of data sharing. Sharing research findings. And also sharing observational records. Records such as species A was seen here, species B was seen here. Is it possible for this species to occur in this area? So all of that is data sharing. Let us not restrict ourselves to thinking that data sharing means sharing raw data. When Michael goes to the field, collects raw data, so you should get raw data. So it is more than that. Second slide, please. Why do we share data? There are a lot of reasons why we share data. We share data among organizations to improve conservation policies. If knowledge, information, data is put together from different organizations, different stakeholders, it makes it so easy to formulate government policies, because government policies are made from good scientific and evidence-based data. Data sharing supports participatory conservation. There are several organizations or individuals dealing in different researches. But when you share data from different individuals, there is a feel of ownership of your contribution or individual contribution or organization contribution to conservation. Data sharing facilitates verification of data. We have seen on several occasions, reading several reports, whereby a researcher A has indicated he has seen a shoe bill in Mabira forest. Of course, that is wrong. You can't find a shoe bill in the forest, not so. But if you share that data, that can be corrected. Data sharing is important when it comes to better resource use and allocation of funds. If I know that WCS is doing work on elephants in Murchison Falls, then Nature Uganda shouldn't do the same research. So you see, it saves time, saves resources, so that the limited resources are used for the most important and the less studied areas. Data sharing also improves the transparency and accountability. We know that conservation NGOA is doing work on such study. So you have to make sure, because of data sharing, you have to make sure that you provide very good information, because other organizations will also be looking at that data. Previous presenters have talked about this. In Uganda, we've got thousands of platforms where data is collected. I see here we have got a large number of young people. Some of them are tour guides, and yeah, so some of these applications are already in use. Talk of eBird. This is one of the most used data collection and sharing platforms. There is iNaturalist. There are also our traditional databases, such as the National Biodiversity Data Bank, which stores a lot of historical data on different taxons of Uganda. Talk of SMART. The previous presenters talked about START. These are all different platforms where we can share data. There are also specific portals for different organizations. There is one for WCS, GIS data portal. There is one for NFA, data management system. All of these are good platforms for sharing data for conservation purposes. Data sharing and collaboration in Nature Uganda. I'd like to inform you that Nature Uganda has gone ahead as far as collaboration and data sharing is concerned. For example, for over 35 years, Nature Uganda has been collaborating with a number of institutions in Uganda to collect data on waterbirds. And I know that most of you have participated in this monitoring activity. That is an element of collaboration. We collaborate with different organizations to collect data on land birds, birds of prey. Jim has talked about the Gullah cranes. We don't do these monitoring activities alone. We partner with different organizations. I've talked about LOPM and NITGS. So because of our partnership and collaboration with different institutions in Uganda, we have been able to collect a lot of data on different aspects, on different birds contributing to conservation in Uganda. When we collect this data, we don't keep it to ourselves and to only the people who are involved in the collection of data. We share this data with a number of organizations. Some of them are national organization, others are international. For international organization, we share data with BirdLife International, specifically for land birds, RSPB, Wetlands International, and African Raptor Database. Locally, we also share our data with a number of local institutions, WCS, Department of Water and Environment, and most of the conservation organizations. When we collect this data, it is not stored in hard copies. We have got a robust database, which is called the Biodiversity and Socio-Economic Database and Information System. Currently, this database hosts more than 200,000 geo-referenced data on biodiversity. Not only birds, but different groups. So this slide just shows the importance of the data that we have collected collaboratively with the different organizations. The data that we have collected with different organizations has helped Uganda to implement different multinational conventions. Uganda is a party to different multinational conventions such as Iowa, Ramsar, and everything. So by collecting this data collectively, we are supporting our country to implement a lot of international conventions. For example, we are party to Ramsar. Ramsar tells Uganda as a nation to designate wetlands of conservation importance, of international importance. So we use our data to designate a number of these Ramsar sites. So this data, we have also used it to designate the 33 IBAs. IBAs are the important bird areas. Remember, don't forget that this data, we collect it collaboratively with different organizations, and many of you have participated, including tour guides, people from UWA, people from NEMA, and the general public. We have used this data to publish it. There are a lot of scientific publications. I've just projected just a few of them, but we use it for publication. We use this data to advise government on a number of government policies. Time is running very fast. I'm trying through. All right. Let me share with you insights on data sharing practices, data sharing best practices in conservation. As we talk about data sharing, these are some of the best practices that should be followed to effectively share data among different organizations. The first practice is, it is important to establish standardized formats and protocols for collecting data. So there must be standardized formats. If Nature Uganda is collecting data on birds and WCS is collecting data on birds, so in order to share this data effectively, there must be standards and formats for collecting data. And it is very important to make sure that all member organizations in the conservation network do have access to this data very easily. And it is also important to put measures to protect sensitive data. Although data sharing is important, but when it comes to sensitive data, such as breeding sites for species which are critically endangered, talk of the vultures, talk of the grey-crowned cranes, that is the data that you can easily share. But you have, as partners in a conservation network, you have to categorize the data to be shared. If it is sensitive data, there must be measures to restrict on sharing this data. There must be quality assurance procedures. We have to make sure that you involve stakeholders, local communities in data sharing processes to ensure that their perspectives and knowledge and concerns are well addressed. We cannot rule out the challenges with data sharing. You see, I think it is human for everyone to keep your data alone, not wanting to share. The reasons for why some organizations do not want to share data relates to their concerns about data ownership and control. If I share data with the National Biodiversity Data Bank, who is owning that data? I've already shared it with the data bank. So there are always those issues. There are always issues to do with the data quality and standardization. I've mentioned about that already before. Data security and privacy. Some data is very sensitive. If I share it with Nature Uganda, that this data will not be shared with the general public without my consent. There are several cultural and institutional differences regarding data sharing. Fund restrictions. Sometimes you get a grant and they tell you shouldn't share this data publicly. You must get consent from the funders. So all of those are challenges. We have got technical challenges. The apps that we have talked about require internet. When you are in the forest, how will you share real-time data without internet? So those are some of those challenges. As I conclude, data sharing is not just a technical issue, but a fundamental principle that supports effective conservation action. As stewards of biodiversity, we have a responsibility to collaborate, share information, and harness the power of data to protect our biodiversity for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chibule, for your presentation on data. You've all heard from various managers, rulers, including our president. If you don't have data on anything, you cannot manage that particular environment. Data. How big the population of Uganda? How large is Uganda? How many water bodies do we have? How many bird species do we have? How many elephants do we have? How many gorillas do we have? How many tourists can you afford to send out to Bwindi or Mugahinga because of the so many habituated gorillas, so many chimpanzees? Data is a very important thing. The challenge, as you've heard, is how do you share it? One of the I published quite a lot. Last year I published 6 papers. Don't hide your data. Publish it and become public. If you keep it on your shelf, most likely nobody will see it. To be a white elephant. Release it to the public. Let them read what you publish. You also become a little bit famous. And they recognize you even when you don't have a job. They will know how he's a serious scientist. And that's how some of us have hustled out there in the world. Data must be published to remain relevant, to be important for anybody, for yourself, as you've seen Michael's presentation, important for you, but more important when it is available to the other people, because they can sometimes share it better, do something, innovate, become more innovative than you, because we are all limited as individuals. But once you share that data, you can expand the level, the impact your information will have on the people you live in, on the organization you work with, and on the whole world. So data is very important. Data sharing is equally very important. Let's clap once again for Michael for a good presentation. He's a statistician who turned into a zoologist. Serious BSc Statistics, Makerere University. I'm aware of that. So you get out there, release your data. I was a planning and monitoring officer in UR, for your information, 1996, 2000. And these days when I go to look for data, what you collect out there, you don't publish. Release it to us and we publish it so that it's available for how many crocodile eggs are you collecting in the wild. I'm a reptile person, so I'm also concerned about some of the data OA collects that is not published. It's not anywhere in your library, and we need it. Sorry to mention that, but information shared is good information, and you also relieve the stress you have. So let's share data, let's collect data, but share it to ourselves and to the public. Lastly but not least, another Michael. Somehow they followed each other on our presentation list, and I'm happy that Mr. Michael Kagin, founder, trustee, and project leader of Uganda Conservation Foundation, has managed to make it and to present to us a topic: data visualization and analysis technology Earth Ranger program. Welcome, Michael, to the dais.
Ladies and gentlemen, very nice to meet you. Some of you I know, some of you, many of you I don't. I don't think I can categorize myself amongst the youth here, but I would like to do so. I'm going to challenge you on one piece of information that all three presentations have talked about, and that is the value of information. Yeah, share it. Yeah, collect it. But what's the value of it? It's how you use it. What does it mean? What's the action, the strategy you're going to take with it? How are you going to invest differently because of that information? What you're going to see here is someone who comes from the private sector as a corporate strategist, before that as a Royal Marine officer. I've been involved in parks here for 25 years. My uncle was Chief Warden of Murchison Falls in 1959 to 64. My history is in Uganda, yes, but it's all about action, not talking. I want to see things done using information, see the change. So if we could please have the slides on. I started the Uganda Conservation Foundation in 2000, 2001. Actually, Julia, who's at the back, was part of our board of directors around that region as well. And we started it because there was what we call a market failure. There was nobody actually taking actions in some of the savanna parks. There's lots of research, but we were only looking after 3% of the park, the same 3% of the park that even today we call the tourism zones. For those of you who know Queen Elizabeth, it's Kisenyi. For those of you who know Murchison, we're talking about the Delta. What about the rest of the 97% of the park? What are we doing with that? In the management plans, we whimsically called it wilderness zones, and we left it alone. We didn't know what to do. We didn't really patrol it. We didn't invest in the foundations of park management. We weren't managing in control of those parks. They were economically not generative. Conservation not going well. So what I'm going to talk about here are the foundations of park management, and I will then slide into, very quickly, some of the technology and the systems that we have already installed across Queen Elizabeth, Murchison, and Kidepo. Next slide, please. I don't know if you have a clicker. We run 7 different programs. I'm not going to talk much about them. The recovery programs are largely about the setting up of the foundations of park management. That was quick. There are 6 others, obviously. The Carnivore and Scavenger program is across Queen, Murchison, and Kidepo. Some of you know Jimmy Kasembo and the team down in Queen Elizabeth. To give you an idea, using the technology and systems that's been going on over the last year, Jimmy and the UA team did 64 responses to lions leaving the park or conflict. He didn't lose a single lion in Queen Elizabeth last year because of that team and because of other teams like it. There's also the ranger training. We've got partnerships with the US and UK military and others as well, UNODC, and this is about raising the professionalism of the Ugandan Wildlife Authority rangers and wardens. Don't forget that the wardens must know what the rangers know to lead them. Now, this isn't about how you can kill someone with a barrow. This is about how you are a better performance in the field. Are you able to navigate, report? Are you able to do the medical fieldcraft, the strategy planning, etc., etc.? We've also just built, as you may well have seen online, the Academy in Murchison Falls, a $10 million facility where UA will be able to train rangers and carry out all sorts of courses. Now, of course, that's got a long way to go, but thank you to the US state for providing that facility. Technology and conservation, of course, Earth Ranger, digital radios, the platform of telephones, hotlines, you name it, all of that going to an operations room. I'll show you that in a second. And then there's, of course, what's going on in Karamoja Kidepo at the moment, a partnership between UA, NFA, Uganda Conservation Foundation in Kenya, a wonderful organization called the Northern Rangeland Trust, who run 46 conservancies, twice the size of the land area of Kenya Wildlife Service. Conservancies are coming across the border into Karamoja and up to Kidepo and into southern Sudan. It's the most remarkable team and remarkable program that is happening now. I know we don't have time and you're very tired, so I'm going to keep moving quite quickly. If we could have the next slide, please. I think you know this pussycat. But this is the problem in 2012. Murchison Falls, one character in this room, Charles Tumwesigye, another character, Tom Okello, who isn't here, called me back from working in London and said Murchison is in trouble. We don't have a working car, and we have a lot of animals and snares and a lot of poaching. We've also got oil, and we don't know really how to raise the money and go about it. And this is what tourism was seeing, and that was the reputation that Uganda had. We sat under trees, we created a plan, and we started fundraising, we started taking the action. The information we found, we acted on. It's acting on information. I want to reinforce that point. Next slide, please. The wheel traps. These are the suspension leaves on any car. Not any car, most cars. And they're made illegally, and these are what terrifies rangers across Murchison and now are killing the lions in Kidepo for the illegal wildlife trade. If a ranger puts a foot in that, you will bleed out. There is not enough support in the region to get you out of there. This is as dangerous as an AK-47. And that's the sort of legal challenge we need to go to the Land Reform Commission with and say it has to be recognized as such when we go to prosecutions. Next slide, please. We created the armories and Law Enforcement Operations Center in Murchison Falls, in Kidepo, in Kibale, and obviously in Kiwi as well. We have over 9,000 wheel traps, which UA and our teams have removed from the park. There have been over 50,000 tons of snares. These are wires that come largely from within the tires that are dumped on Uganda from the international recycling trade. Shoes are made out of the rubber, and the wire is there to kill your animals. And we're allowing it to happen and calling it recycling. Apparently that's green. So we recently created Snare Mountain. If we could keep going a little bit, please. This is an image that went across 400 front pages across the world. 12 mountains like this equivalent to 12 mountains have been collected by the UA teams, the frontline rangers in Uganda, and others, such as the community scouts we have. The image made everyone aware of just how hard the Ugandan Wildlife Authority rangers are working and how successful they are in the field, if supported, if motivated. And it's also about making sure they have the right resources and are prioritized. Because of this, Murchison Falls was recognized as the greatest recovery of any national park in Africa run by an African government. Now, we might be having heavy poaching now, but that is an accolade that we shouldn't forget. And we now have the foundation from which we can go miles further, a long way further across the whole park. So we must remember that the Ugandan Wildlife Authority is vastly under-resourced, and they're on the ground, and they're doing the job. Doesn't matter how many things we count, it's the action we take, all right? And putting money in the right places. Foundations of park management is essentially, have you got the infrastructure of what you need where you need it? Have you got the rangers trained and equipped with what they need? Can they communicate, and do you have the transport systems around across the whole park, not just the 3% of the tourism zone? For those who know Queen Elizabeth, Chibona, do we have roads in there? No. Lions Bay, do we? No. How about Chambura? No. How about in Kamalakwezi, Jura, Greater Jura? How about in the whole of south of Murchison? Are we actually managing, or are we passively thinking we're heroes without doing it? We're not doing enough. If you look on the left, 1960s, the national parks are the blue dots. They're predominantly around the edge of the park. The purpose of those initial infrastructures were put in to stop the advance of agriculture. You'll note that a poacher could walk between those ranger posts into the heart of the park and would not be challenged. Maybe one day out of 29 on a patrol, a poacher would see a ranger. But the other 29 days, the rangers wouldn't be in there because they couldn't sustain their efforts in those areas. If you look on the right-hand side, the purple dots are what the Ugandan Wildlife Authority invested in. And this isn't communicated anywhere on any platform in the Ugandan Wildlife Authority or Ministry. Those purple dots are where most of the crop raiding was happening at that time. And UA invested their capital to make sure the communities had permanent presence to sort that problem out. And that's a huge congratulations to UA, because you don't usually have enough money to do most things. The yellow dots are now the rest of the ranger posts that the Uganda Conservation Foundation has invested in. All of those sectors, of which there are 9 sectors in Murchison, have permanent solar power, housing for the rangers. They are now respected. They are now able to have a permanent presence every single day and patrol those areas and make sure the animals are safe. But we need to be cognizant of the fact that we only have about 1/5 of the rangers we need. And so you're not actually doing as much as we could. Next slide, please. Murchison Falls was one of Africa's top 10 national parks. It was the most visited national park in Africa in the 1960s, and it had the most animals per square kilometre than anywhere in Africa. Top left is a command centre. Do you think that is what a ranger is impressed with after a 6-day extended patrol coming back in the wet? Are we really respecting the people who do the work on the front line? No. Now let's get serious. On the right, they now are secure, they've got clean water, they've got a light bulb, they're able to look after their ammunitions, look after their food, look after everything. It is about respecting primarily the people who are doing that frontline job, whether it's crop raiding, and mitigating it, or whether it's anti-poaching, whatever it might be. And the bottom, similarly, we've now built 35 ranger posts across the Ugandan Wildlife Authority estate in QE and Murchison. Next slide, please. Again, punching into areas we simply don't know very well. And sometimes we had to get a fire brigade in there to bring in just simple water for the rangers. It's all that was available. The stuff that we need, often it's the basics. Can we reach an area? Can we resupply an area? Can we look after the anti-poaching there when we need to be doing it, which is whenever the coin drops on that priority action. Next one, please. Created veterinary departments, whether in QE, Murchison, or now Kadepo, provision of skills, the youth coming through. There's 3 young vets working with us at the moment. Provision of quick reaction vehicles, dart guns, reagents, drugs, the research that's maybe necessary, such as what on earth was going on with the rash with the Rothschild's giraffe. As soon as we found out what it was, microfilaria, it was not in any way threatening to the species. It was no longer a priority to continue the work. Research would have been interesting, yes. But was it a priority when there were 1 million other priorities in the park? No. So we moved on. Here you have what you call the Law Enforcement and Operations Centre in Murchison Falls, similarly in Queen Elizabeth and in Kadepo as well. In here, you house the armory, the police, you have the operations room where Earth Ranger and other communication systems all integrate, as well as intelligence, investigation, prosecution teams. And this is where the Quick Reaction Force teams are briefed about what their objectives are for an operation. A vehicle is waiting, fueled. A team is waiting, is then detailed on what the operation is necessary, the objectives. They go and do it, they come back, and then they present back to their bosses exactly what they've found. And if they're prosecuting, the investigation is doing it there and then, with the police right next to them and the cell right next to them, closing out many of the loopholes of the corruption that we most often see with poachers being able to get out. Now, Earth Ranger, you've all heard of Bill Gates. He had a partner in Microsoft called Paul Allen, and Paul Allen created Vulcan, and Vulcan was a $1 billion Bill Gates Foundation where he essentially said, I'm going to invest lots of passion into his interests. One of them was protected area managers. He brought together, at that time, what he regarded as the top 10 protected area managers in Africa. And he said, what do you need? And they said, we need to be able to understand what's happening in our park. We need to be able to see where our rangers are. We need to hear what the problems are. We need to be able to support them, deploy, whatever is necessary. We need to hear if there's an anthrax outbreak in Queen Elizabeth and whether we need to send a vet team out to verify. We need to get a vet team out to take a snare off an animal. Whatever is going on, from crop raiding to veterinary. It could even just be ecological monitoring as well. And so Earth Ranger was created. If we could just click it once more, please. It brings in thousands of signals in real time. It could be an elephant, lion, giraffe, collar, whatever. It could also be the digital radio. It could also be your telephone. It could be any type of signal, including from a satellite, is there a fire in the park? The map of the park is shown in real time. The information goes in from someone in the field automatically. The operator sitting behind the computer with the decision maker behind them can authorize any action as soon as it's put in there. Boss, we've got an issue with poaching. 2 people have seen 4 poachers, 2 guns. No problem. Tell them not to engage. It'll go nasty. Let's get Quick Reaction Force Alpha and Beta in there, and let's organize a safe arrest, professional. Let's get them prosecuted. And it's done professionally. You can, at that point, you're talking about information going into a huge, great sort of database. And at this point, Silicon Valley has over 100, 200 people and collaborators who over 10, 15 years have developed what is now by far the most advanced tool that conservation has, by a very long way. It's now doing the automation of reporting. Everybody reports to someone, right? Whether you are a sector commander, law enforcement, and you're reporting to your warden in charge of law enforcement, you know 90% of what's going in your report, and it's just the format and the data going in. So you automate that and the graph is done. How many of our rangers are actually statistically competent? How many of our commanders are trained in analytics? Are we getting consistency month in, month out, whether it's data collection or in the analysis or in the reporting? How long does it take for the reports to come out? And are the reports sometimes even worth reading? I can tell you most of the ones I've read over the last 25 years have told me nothing we didn't already know. All you have to do is sit down with the guys and the girls on the ground and listen to what's going on, and you will understand what's happening in that sector. But there's now a flood of information coming in, and now this automation, as well as the analytics behind it, as well as the GIS, is making sure every sector can have a plan. Every sector can report on that plan, whether it's a threat to do with lions, elephants, whether it's to do with crop raiding, whether it's to do with a disease outbreak, zoonotic or otherwise. A plan can be implemented, resourced, and you can manage it. Not just one sector like the Delta or Kisenyi, all 9 of Queen Elizabeth's and all 9 of Murchison. They all can be brought up, and the recovery of the park can then be stimulated. That was Christine, many of you know, a force to be reckoned with, and this is the Academy. So in here, this is thanks to the US state. 5 years ago, 3 of us sat and thought, how can we go beyond just training rangers? Who needed a facility? We all need a facility where the next generation has a chance. We don't need to go to huge hotels and spend ridiculous money that we don't have. We can go there, we can feed our guys and girls, we can plan. It's not just for training, it could be for management planning, whatever it is, and really focus in on it. This is the Irish Guards, one of the UK's amazing regiments that's been coming out to help train the Rangers. And we've trained over 1,000 Rangers just on leadership alone. We have Marine Rangers being trained right now in Murchison as well, for Queen and Murchison as well. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through all of these words. I know it's the end of the day. I think we've got Miss Worlds in here and they need to go out partying or something. But because of the recovery programs, the practical things on the ground, cob numbers in Murchison went from 40,000 to 160,000. Giraffe numbers went from 200 to over 2,000. Elephants are now over 3,000 again. Now, poaching's happening badly now, but we're in a position to react. And the decisions of top management, the trustees, the government, the ministry, can now actually make a very, very clear difference. Not just a marginal difference of 1 day out of 29. You can sustain that effort. You can sustain all of those gains. So if you think of 16,000 elephants in Murchison going back to the 1960s, yeah, we've gone from 200 when it collapsed up to 3,000 again. We have the environment that an animal is breeding at an optimal level. It cannot breed quicker. All we need to do is protect them. And of course, make sure that the communities and the interactions are positive and the value of the park is positive. These are the same boys, some of our Pakwatch, Panyamur, Noya boys. They've been removing snares for the last 4 or 5 years. That was them before. Is that what we want with our youth? 80% of our youth are under 20 years old. They don't have an education. They don't have a skill. Where are they going? Over COVID, it wasn't just COVID when tourism collapsed. The river flooded. Agriculture flooded. We then had the fisheries flooded, and then transport was on a lockdown as well. Their entire economy collapsed. Where were the youth going to go? Who helped? Only the primary stakeholders exist, UA and the communities, the greatest partners. The rest of us are there to stimulate and help and plug gaps. We have to get the structures in to make sure that happens, not that. But whilst I listened to the last 3 talks, I know of 9 poaching incidents that I was following on Earth Ranger across Queen Elizabeth, Murchison and Cadepo, and we're sat here. We need to make sure the resources are going out there, not here. That's a lot of animals dead in your time of a talk here. We either act or we sit down and congratulate ourselves for talking to each other endlessly without acting. And that's the challenge we've got to get to. These youth are brilliant young men, and they built the JOC, they built the police station, they built 35 ranger posts, they built the marine stations, they are the guys who've removed 40 metric tons of snares. They are supporting UA every single day. They are brilliant young men from those local communities, and they are the future. And in the schools, that's where we've got to get to too. We've got an army of youth here with lots of knowledge. Let's get you out in there in the schools. Make it part of your curriculums, make it part of your business to go and help someone just beyond your easily helped people. See where you can get into to make a difference. And we've planted 1 million trees, indigenous trees, where if you go to Pachaya Community College, which is just on the Wadalai Road, we've been with the communities training them to plant all of these trees, all of them indigenous. We give them for free. We want to get them out there, and we make sure they survive. What am I really talking about with all of this? Yes, we've put in communications. Yes, we can talk over 85% of the parks now. Yes, we can deploy better across the parks. And yes, we're having better plans. Information is about us using it and making the right strategies, solving the problems for the next generation. It's not, as I've been hearing, just about publishing. We've got to use that information properly. Okay? There's lots of brilliant information out there. But what's the purpose of it? Piece of paper or action? Right? That's my takeaway. Thank you very much.
What a way of concluding today's presentations. Let's give an applause, a big clap for Michael. Positive ending. A very good job done by the foundation, and OA is now up. Thanks for your effort, and we can see our protected areas bouncing back with animals in big numbers, and I'm sure those will also bring about great other potentials such as more tourism and more conservation efforts in the area. Thank you very much. My session is also over now. I hand over back to Mr. Achilles Biaruhanga so that he tells us the next move. From the 4 talks we've had this afternoon under my chair, I'm sure several of you have questions that you would want answered. Can we have, let's raise your hands. I'm going to count all of you. We go one session. And the presenters be ready. Write down the question you hear from whoever is asking and respond accordingly after the 6, 7 of you have made your questions. Mr. Oteka.
Thank you very much. I'm Oteka John. I'm Oteka John Emily, I stated earlier, a veteran conservationist since 1976. I am so impressed because I first want to start by asking Michael, the two Michaels, the last Michael, and then the second Michael. Then I'll also ask Baluku. Just simple questions. One, to thank Michael and his team, the last Michael, for supporting UA. When I see what has happened over the years, then I'm so impressed. I was Chief Warden in Merchant Falls National Park in the early 80s. But I think what I see now is I'm so impressed. Now, what impresses me most is the Ranger Training Academy. But having said that, now that we're discussing when UA is here, that's the Ranger Training Academy. Do you have plans for training the trainers? Because that's normally where the problem is. You can have the academy, but if the trainers are not there, is it still an academy? You can have a school if the teachers are not there. So do you, Michael, you have those plans, or are you going to collaborate with UA to make sure that the trainers are in place? The training in the army is not exactly what happens in the Ranger Force. And I normally argue with people about that issue. If you get the army to train the Rangers, then you are militarizing the Ranger Force. They are supposed to be paramilitary in a way. Just like you get the army to train police, you are militarizing the police. One, so Michael, are you intending to have a trainer of trainers? The second, Michael, the one of Nature Uganda. The challenge you mentioned, even you mentioned it, is on the data that has not been published. And there is plenty of data out there that has not been published. Again, I'm referring to the Uganda Institute of Ecology. But look, you might remember that the UW, now what you call the Research Institute, the country evolved from where it was the Uganda Institute of Ecology. There was still a lot of data, raw data. Professor Kasoma, who used to be one of the supervisors in that institute, is here also. Is there any effort to coordinate those research findings so that something can be done? Can Nature Uganda take it up? Like now you have taken up this one. I know Achilles was almost becoming a priest, maybe would be a bishop now. Achilles, can you take upon yourself to coordinate this research so that it can be useful to all of us? There is a lot of research that can be used in this country, but it is just lying dormant or it's not being shared. Now, Baluku, the director, what you are doing there, of course, is very excellent. But I also have one problem. When you talk about collaboration, establishing collaboration, what touches my heart is, out of the 500, about 500 students that have passed through your school, how many have gotten employed? And by who? I'm giving a live example. Last year, there were 850 rangers trained in Kawaweta. How many were from Lake Country? How many? Almost less than 10 maybe. Have you made any collaboration with Uganda Wildlife Authority that somebody who has got a certificate from Lake Country or a diploma in Lake Country is better than somebody who has just got out of senior 4? Have you made that collaboration? Because what I see is there's a preference for those who have not gone for a certificate or a diploma to those who already have those things. And I'm saying it even in front of UA, the former board chairman is here, because that thing touches me. Because I know where I come from in Serere, a number of those people contacted me that now, Mzee, we trained, we have certificates, we have diplomas. But some of our colleagues who are just left from senior 4, they are there for training. And also, of course, now I'm talking because I'm also an elder. What we discovered also was the element of, underhand. This person has been removed from Mount Elgon because he has got hepatitis B. When you take the same person to Iganga, he has no hepatitis B. He goes through from Iganga, but from Bale, he's about to die. So also can that be observed. Lastly, again, Subaluku, invasive species. It is very good that that invasive species in Moya, and then even in Lantana Kamara. Are you making an effort? Because the institute, of course, is the national institute. Are you also making an effort to see to it that even other protected areas, something is done about? Because by the time you finish Queen Elizabeth, Kilepo will have been gone. Kilepo is being covered by Lantana every day. Kamara. Even Queen Elizabeth itself, the spear grass, where I used to see floods and floods of Uganda cobs, the Kabatoro area there, it is being taken over by spear grass. Are you extending the same favor of research to other protected areas? Thank you very much.
Let's have 2-3 more hands. So the question raised, and then we answer at once, and we'll go to the next conclusive session.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My name is Murura Herbert. I work with Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute. I just want to build on what the director talked about, that something missed, and I think it's important to be highlighted, about a modularized curriculum which we offer as an institute. That training is for formal qualifications, but at the same time, we have competence-based training in specific areas. Like right now, there is a training on nature interpretation, and after 3 weeks, the participants will be offered a certificate of competence in that area. So Ugandans are outside there, and they cannot have an opportunity to come for formal qualifications. They have a chance to come and get skilled, because at the end of the day, they had a number of skilled personnel outside there that are better for us in conservation and tourism. Thank you.
2 more hands. Any more questions, or we address those and that's it? So, can Michael, Mr. Kedwin respond, then Michael too, and then Mr. Baluku. Thank
you. Mzee, you were firing on all cylinders in all directions. Now, the Academy All Training is about making sure that we're not necessary, you and me. It's about the next generation being able to do what we're doing. But we're not starting with things in place. So we're having to train those trainers, we're having to create those structures. And yes, we're working very directly with Charles and his team to make sure those strategies are in place. Even now, when the Marine Rangers training is happening in Murchison, you have 3 or 4 UA trainers who are advanced level trainers who are helping to train the private sector and the concessionaires on the river, as well as the scouts, as well as new rangers. So yes, we must make sure the generation below us takes over. All right? Second question, what was the second question again? That was it. You did ask one more, I can't remember what it is, but anyway, other Michael will answer something.
Thank you for that question. First of all, we need to know who is collecting data, using which methods, and this person who is collecting data is a specialist in that area. Nature Uganda has established working groups which are made of specialists. So let all of us belong to these working groups which are made of specialists who will teach us the correct, better data collection methods. Because we know with publication, it's not easy. The reviewers will ask about the methods. If you didn't use the good method, then your paper will not be accepted. So make sure, if you want to publish out of your researches, make sure you work with the various working groups of Nature Uganda who are made of the best specialists, the mammalogists, the avifauna specialists. Dr. Matthias is here to guide on the way how data is collected, because you can't publish data which is not properly collected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Watekat. You have posed the two concerns. One is to do with the collaboration. The question is, is UWRTI collaborating with UA or other organizations? Yeah, actually that's a very important question, because it seems somewhere, somehow, we still have that kind of thinking that this one is mine, then the other one says this one is mine, and by the end of the day, we lose track. Because indeed, government is burning a lot of money to give us, to train Ugandans, to try to professionalize the wildlife sector. But somewhere, somehow, I think we end up losing on the rightful track. I want the commissioner is here, my commissioner. Yes, we have fought this, and it was actually in this very room, where we said enough is enough, please UWA, take on our products. And we seem to have agreed, but how it got out of hand, nobody knows. But I think we are working on that relationship. We are conducting a number of engagements to make sure that the next intake, at least something should be done. We are promised in UA, they have what they call the guides. And I think that recruitment has not taken place, and they have given priority to those at least who have been trained in wildlife or trained in tourism. So we hope that it is going to work. Then those rangers working in the monitoring area, monitoring, is it a department, is it you can correct me. Yeah, so they're saying that they will be taking on our products and other, of course, other graduates from other institutions. And if we can do that, then we'll be in a position to professionalize the rangers, and the results certainly will be good. The other one is to do with the invasive species. What are you planning for other protected areas? Yeah, so we want to concentrate on Queen Elizabeth National Park, so that if the methods are working, then we can replicate this in other protected areas. Yes, we roll it out. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody. Let's give an applause to all our presenters this afternoon. And Michael Kagan, I think would have missed a lot if you didn't come. I think if I was going to ask in the room, would you have afforded to miss this presentation? I'm sure the answer would be the same. So thank you very much for making it. I know you had a lot of things to do, but you made it and you have run a lot of work. I do agree with you. We need more action than papers, but we also need papers to know what is being done. So thank you very much. Now, before I conclude, you know from the beginning I mentioned, we are celebrating. This is part of the celebrations for the World Wildlife Day. And this is not the only activity that we are working on. There are other activities. So let me invite somebody from, or are you going to do it with the closing remarks? Okay, fine, that's okay. So he will tell us more, or tell us other events that are within this World Wildlife Week. celebrations. So thank you very much. And then let's give a hand, he's gone, to our session chair, Dr. Matthias Behangana. Thank you very much for what you have done. Just a couple of announcements. One, this has been a rush, okay? This has been a rush to get people to make this, this conference. We usually organize a scientific conference. This was a conservation conference. So, so we think in November, we shall organize a much more elaborate conference where we can, you know, be broad on topics that we're going to share. I already got some complaints of people who didn't invite to present, meaning there's so much that we can share, but we don't have a forum, we don't have a platform. So in November, we shall start early to call upon you to register and give us your presentation, and then see how we can continue to share information, make use of that information to conserve our wildlife, our resources. So thank you very much once again. Thank you very much for bearing the heat since morning, and now it is coming to 6. We are still here, which means it was all interesting. So I had mentioned from the beginning we had the opening ceremony, we had the presentations, and then we have the closing remarks. We are not going to have a ceremony because the big event is going to be in somewhere. I think our commissioner is going to tell us. So that's where we shall have the merrymaking and cocktails and other things. They will be at the main event. Now we shall close quietly with closing remarks by our commissioner, George Oweyesigire. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Achilles Biaruhanga. Good evening to you all. It's been a long day, I know. A number of us are tired, but it's been worth it because I've personally learned a lot. I've been in this sector for more than, following you, Captain, for more than 15 years, 17 years, but a couple of things that I've learned today. So thank you for those who were able to share with us. Let me introduce myself. I'm George Oweyesigire. I'm the Acting Commissioner of Wildlife Conservation at the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. I've been everywhere like MTN. I've spent years at UWA. I've spent years at the Jane Goodall Institute. I've spent years at the ministry, and then so moving around. And I am a former trustee of Uganda Conservation Foundation. I expected Mike Kegwini to recognize my contribution during those years. You are apologizing, okay. Okay. So, but currently, of course, I serve on the board of the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, and I serve on the Governing Council of the Wildlife Training Institute, and I'm on the board of UWA. So some of the questions that were being raised, I have taken a note, and we will go and follow up. Thank you. So let me begin by thanking the people who have supported our being here, the financially, the Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute, the World Wildlife Fund for Nature, and then the Nature Uganda. So these three institutions have generously supported. It's been spearheaded by my colleague, he isn't here, Mr. Chandia, and then the department colleagues. I think there's Boaz Tumusima, and then a couple of other guys from the Wildlife Institute. So they are here, so you can see them. Yes, so thank you very much. And this is a product of the National Organizing Committee. I have personally, like I said, learned quite a lot. We do note that there are several technologies being used across the country, and a number of outputs, lessons and observations have been learned. And this is highly important for us. It's timely because we are currently reviewing the Uganda Wildlife Policy 2014. And we are also reviewing the Tourism Act. And these lessons that we've gathered from here will definitely inform our current consultation process, but also facilitate the formulation of a very good policy that should be able to address some of the emerging challenges. Now, the many presenters have highlighted the benefits. I don't want to repeat, but also a couple of challenges. But to pick out one that has, in some areas, when I worked with the Wildlife Authority in the field, and the ED highlighted it, the issue of the lack of interest and concern, what he called the apathy. That these technologies, and I've talked to a couple of partners, they give us, some of them donate equipment, modern equipment, and we do not take advantage. In Uganda, we say we share for them. We keep them in the drawers, and then the outputs are not there. So I think this is the time now that we have to embrace technology, since now we've learned the benefits that accrue from use of technology. We have quite a lot of equipment. I know most of the things that we were being told that are some are in the stores, but we now need to open the stores and apply some of the findings. The other challenge that I personally also have noted is the sharing of information, and Dr. Behanga and Matthias mentioned this. We have a lot of, and Captain Otekat, we have a lot of work being done, but the information is not shared, so it cannot help us. And then you have it there, kept somewhere, and then we can't use it. So let's continue, and I'm glad you've highlighted. We will continue to work together to ensure that we organize similar fora and platforms where we can share this kind of information. Something that Uganda Conservation Foundation mentions is the need to facilitate and motivate staff, because the environment within which we work is a little bit hostile, and these guys need to be helped, to be facilitated, to be accommodated, to be some incentives for them to move around. Now what happens is when you introduce some technology, new technology, when I worked at Chivari, the staff, the rangers will not embrace it because the technology is not monitoring the park, it is monitoring the staff. Because when I come back, you'll ask me about the coverage. How many kilometers have I walked? How many animals have I seen, the sightings? And that means I have to manipulate the data sheet and do all sorts of things. So people will not embrace these technologies because they are creating more work. But some of the technologies have also made some people lose jobs. You bring some technology that will create, you will cover, you can monitor, you can have only 2 people monitoring the entire protected area. So now what we need is again to raise awareness and to share, to ensure that people understand these technologies and appreciate how they complement our work, that they are not intended to monitor the performance only, which is quite good, but they are also intended to enhance efficiency and the performance of our work. Now, something that is being raised about the recruitment, I happen to sit on a committee that does the recruitment. Otekat, I've heard you. The Uganda Police Force has been professionalizing. The Uganda People's Defense Forces, the other day I saw the president handling another huge book that is aimed at transforming the force. And they have been recruiting professionals. And I think the Wildlife Training Institute, Research and Training Institute, is doing a good job for us. And I will continue to add my voice as we recruit within the sector, the wildlife sector, that we need these professionals if we are going to professionalize. We are talking about technology use. If you bring individuals that cannot write properly, they cannot read, they will not manipulate this thing called the drone. They will not analyze and interpret the results from the Earth Ranger. So I think going forward, I wanted to assure you, if I'm still around, and I'm not going anywhere, I will continue to push for professionalization, and we will have to focus on those that have undergone some training so that they're able to use this equipment. And then we are able to improve on our performance. This institute we've just received the support from the World Bank. The Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute is going to be fully equipped to become a center of research and training located in Kasese. So we, of course, we'll have to equip our institute with all this equipment that I've talked about so that we can be able to enhance your skills. So please send your sons and daughters and relatives and friends so that we can support them. Please continue to share as the technology evolves. What we have heard about today, what has been shared, next year there will be something new. The iPhones, the Infinixes and the Technos will be advanced, and then we'll be able to do quite a lot. Maybe we'll have these conferences from our homes. We've already started with Zoom. Now, the moderator and all the partners, we do not want to sit here, I always say, and eat sausages and go home. That we have a secretariat that has been capturing some of the recommendations, the questions, and the recommendations that we have to go and use and implement, improve. And of course, I will direct some of the colleagues that I do supervise here as the institutions to go and implement. So we need accountability. When we come next year, we will say we had a conference and these were some of the recommendations. Maybe the first session we will have to account, and I will be part of the team that will have to account it to you. So that is about the next steps. Now, let me invite you, finally. We have other events. We've done this, but we have other pending events as a part of the celebrations to mark the World Wildlife Day 2024. We have the Wildlife Marathon on Sunday, 25th, this Sunday. And the kits are with our colleagues at the Uganda Wildlife Authority. Probably you'll tell us where to find them. I got an inquiry from some colleagues. Captain Otekat, as a historical conservationist, is pledging to be there. So he will do 10 kilometers. So please, we come and join us on Sunday. We'll be here. We have a conservation competitions for primary and secondary levels on 28th in Kampala, and then we have the on 2nd March in Chenjojo, where we have the primary schools. We have the Crested Crane Festival. This has been an event that we've been celebrating every year in the Crested Crane range districts. We've done in Rwengo, in Sembabule last year, and this time we will be in Mbarara, a place called Rubaya Sub-County. So please join us for this Crested Crane Festival, celebrate our national bird with us. And then we will have the wildlife concert. This is might be the first of its kind. We will be hosting Eddie Kenzo in Chenjojo at the eve of the main celebrations on the 2nd. So there will be a lot of merrymaking and dancing. I will be dancing as well, so kindly join us on the 2nd. And then we have the D-Day on 3rd in Chenjojo at a place called the Kagorogoro Primary School. There is a playground there. That's where we shall be. Now, finally, I want to thank all the chairs. The moderator, Mr. Byaruhanga Achilles, thank you very much. Dr. Matthias, thank you very much. Dr. Pantaleon Kasoma, thank you very much. And the other chairs who are on the other side, I didn't I kept here. But also the partners that have been here. You see all these other logos here. These have been working with us closely and they have supported us. All of the individuals, the universities, the students, thank you, and I'm happy. We've been talking to ourselves for many years. You invite, you have WWF, you have Matthias, you have Panda, you have George, you have in the room, you talk, you have UWA, you have the ministry, you have all these conservationists. But today, we had Miss Tourism. Could you stand up for recognition? So, what has been lacking is the ability to talk to people who have not done conservation, who have not been involved. And today we had a good turn-up. The venue was small, and this is a key lesson for us. We will have to improve. Thank you very much, and I want to wish you well. And
close this conference officially. Thank you very much.